Steve Carter found himself on a missing children's website. The then 35-year-old knew that he was adopted in Honolulu, Hawaii when he was 4 years old. He had lived in an orphanage but didn't know much about the circumstances. Carter moved on with his life, but in 2011 he began to think about his family history when he got married and considered having his own kids. Carter said in a TV program about missing child story caught his attention and nudged him to explore more of his own. After visiting missingkids.com, an age progression image of himself left Carter speechless. He knew he was looking at himself and reached out to the Honolulu Police Department. They did lots of work to investigate his story and even ran a DNA test. That's how he discovered his birth name was actually Marks Panamo Moriarty Barnes. He was able to track down his biological father, Mark Barnes. Barnes was the man who notified authorities that his son had gone missing. According to the report, Carter's biological mother, Charlotte Moriarty, was responsible. Moriarty took her son along for a walk but never returned. Carter claims that his mother placed him in an orphanage and changed his name to Tenzin Amir. Barnes stated that he wished he had reported his son missing sooner. After many years, he was shocked to receive a phone call from his long-lost son. Carter said the experience was a lot to digest. While many reunion stories have happy endings, Carter wanted to take his time to process everything that had happened. The whereabouts of his biological mother are purportedly unknown, and an air of mystery still surrounds the story of what really happened to him in Honolulu. Before rushing to meet with the family members he had found out about, Carter first wanted to gain more insight into his initial disappearance. Steve learned his birth name was Marks Panamo Moriarty Barnes, and that his father, Mark Barnes, had reported him missing after his mother, Charlotte Moriarty, went for a walk with him on the 21st of June 1977 and never returned. Charlotte had gone to a stranger's home and given a fake name for herself and her son, which is where the case became confused. As people reported, Charlotte was taken to a psychiatric hospital where baby Steve was put in protective care. She disappeared a few days later and has never been found. The fake name hampered police's efforts to reunite the baby with any living relatives, and instead, he became a ward of the state. 3 years later he was adopted by Steve and Pat Carter, who raised their son in New Jersey. A year after Steve learned the truth, he made contact with members of his family, his older half-sister Jennifer Monheimer, and his father. To this day, Charlotte's whereabouts remains a mystery. Mark Barnes believes that she is alive and will get in contact with him one day. Charlotte also has another daughter from a relationship previous to Barnes, who has not heard from her mother since. Stephen Carter Jr.'s life had started in the Hawaiian Islands. He knew this much. But he always had an unsettling feeling that he just couldn't shake. There were missing pieces in his life story. He knew he was born with the name Tenzin Amir on January 16, 1977. But one day, he stumbled upon something that changed everything. For Stephen, it had been an ordinary workday at his medical software sales job in Philadelphia. It was lunchtime, so he whiled away the hour by idly scrolling through his phone. But then, something strange caught his eye. It was a breaking news update from CNN. Little did Stephen know, this particular story was about to set him on a road from which there was no return. Stephen read the news story and immediately took interest. It documented the missing person case of Carlina White, and there had finally been a breakthrough. Carlina had been reported missing from a hospital in New York shortly after she was born. As an adult, Carlina made an earth-shattering discovery of her own. She had solved her own case. Carlina White was just 19 days old when she was reported missing under mysterious circumstances from the hospital where she had been taken for a fever. A woman disguised as a nurse had taken her, and she had no idea she was even on the missing persons list, thinking her kidnapper was her own mother. For all those years, Carlina White's story was a game-changer for Stephen. Stephen had always thought that he had been given up as an infant, and was then in the care of the state. He had been living in an orphanage and subsequently in foster care on the island of Oahu when he was just a few months old. Stephen had few memories from this period in his life, but he remembered that he had yearned for a family. One day, his dreams came true. In 1980, United States Army officer Steve Carter Sr. and his wife Pat were stationed in Hawaii when they paid the orphanage a visit. When they saw 3-year-old Stephen, then Tenzin Amir, they knew he was the one. On September 23, 1980, the happy couple officially adopted him. They were told by the staff at the orphanage that Tenzin was half native Hawaiian, but something just didn't add up. Tenzin had pale skin, blue eyes, and blonde hair. Steve and Pat thought nothing of it at first, and resolved to give the little boy the best life they could. They renamed him William Stephen Tenzin Carter, after his adoptive father, and life improved dramatically for the young boy. The family left Hawaii and settled in Medford Lakes, an affluent area in New Jersey. Stephen lived a privileged life with the Carters and put his past behind him, but he never expected it to come back to haunt him. The Carters tried to remain as open about Stephen's origins as they could. They even celebrated his adoption day, calling it Came to Be Our Boy Day. But as Stephen grew older, he started asking questions that they didn't know the answers to. Aside from being told that Stephen's birth father was ethnically Hawaiian, and the dates on his birth certificate, which had strangely, Stephen had studied at Penn University and had become an adult. But his curiosity about his early life was something he couldn't shake. It was like an itch that couldn't be scratched, a gnawing undercurrent in his entire life. Now, in his 30s, he would finally uncover the truth and shake an entire nation to its core with his findings. And it all started with a simple home DNA test. Stephen, now married, had received the DNA test as a Christmas gift, and the results finally gave him the answers he had been looking for, or at least, they uncovered the first piece of the puzzle. The test revealed that he had Scandinavian roots, which made sense given his complexion. But most startling, there was no trace of his Hawaiian ancestry in his DNA. It was just as his suspicions were mounting that he came across the breaking story about Carlina White. The artist's rendition was uncanny in its resemblance to Stephen. It was like looking in a mirror. Stephen refused to believe the truth at first. He frantically sent the picture to his friends and family, who were just as astounded as he was. Stephen was shattered by the revelation. That's when his wife, Tracy, insisted that he dig further to uncover the mystery. But when it was all laid bare in front of him, did he really want to know the truth? Stephen wrestled with his emotions. It wasn't too late to just forget what he had seen and continue to live out his days in a blissful lie. He could pretend he had never seen the picture, and life would go on. But the curiosity gnawed at him like an ache in the back of his mind. He had made his decision. He had to know. So he pulled out his phone and started dialing. After 3 heartbreaking weeks, Mark got the local police involved and reported the pair as missing. But there were no leads. The pair had seemingly vanished without a trace. He continued to search for his missing family for 2 years, but to no avail, and he became a broken man. He waited for the call that never came, and the wondering haunted him for the rest of his life. Mark Barnes told People that when he spoke to his son for the first time, all I could say was, "Wow. Oh wow. Wow." He recalled how rough it had been to lose his girlfriend and son so suddenly like that, and never locating them. "I spent about a year and a half going crazy driving around the island," he told People. In 2012, Steve said he was taking things slowly with his new relatives. For him, knowing the truth was the most important part. It's good to know where you've come from.